Okay. Hi, Mindy.
Hello.
Hi.
We're still working out all the little details on YouTube Live, right? With the delays and is it on? That's my joke. Is this thing on? Is this mic on? How are you today?
I'm good. I'm good. Thank you. How are
Awesome.
you?
I'm doing great. Thank you. Thank you very much. I look forward to our time together on Fridays to record and discuss and collaborate. I enjoy learning from you and sharing as well. It's a lot of fun.
Thank you. I feel the same way. I feel like this has become kind of a nice, end of the week where we get to hang out and just chat. And it's so easy talking to you. So I really
Oh,
appreciate that.
thank you. And I know we're going to brainstorm today about our subject, our topic, time management and stress management. And for me, those two go hand in hand. So, and I don't look at managing time as the word time management. I look at managing my activities within time frame windows. And I know from experience it relieves stress for me when I have a plan, when I'm proactive, when I'm prioritizing things that are important that move me towards my goals. And I know when I don't have a solid plan to manage those activities within time frames, that's when my stress will uptick. And if I can get ahead of that and be proactive and be more relaxed and clear about my focus of pursuing my goals, I know I feel so much better. But I would think as a doctor, you are an expert at managing your activities and appointments within time. So I'd love to hear what you have to say about time and stress management.
That is kind of the myth, isn't it? That if you're a doctor, if you have a doctoral degree, that somehow you've learned to do that. And there is some truth to it in that when you go through a doctoral program and a master's program like I have, being a graduate student really teaches you how to manage your priorities and your workload, because in graduate school, the teacher is not giving you homework. They're not sending you home with do this today and do that tomorrow, and they don't have the same kind of lesson plan that they do when you're in high school or even undergraduate. So there's a lot more that you are responsible for managing and making sure. So for example, in doctoral school, I remember my first course that I took, I pull out the syllabus and we're required to read 2 books a week. Everybody in the class had this collective gasp, like 2 books a week. What are you talking about? And so what you had, the teacher was like, this is my expectation. And I know you all have lives, and it's up to you to figure out, are you going to read both books cover to cover? Are you going to keep up with reading 2 books a week? Or are you going to read 1 book and then, once every other week, you're just going to do this marathon and read several books? It's up to you. Basically, how much do you want to get out of this course? It's a doctoral course. And so I'm telling you that in order to finish this course, you have to know this much information, right? So it was really up to us. And having said that, I think it's still true that no matter what you've been through, no matter if you have a doctoral degree or a medical degree, or you have, lots and lots of experience running businesses, the time and stress management are probably the number 1 thing that the head of the organization, the leader of the organization, needs to actively think about and needs to figure out how to model for the rest of the organization, right? As someone that works one-on-one with people, my life is pretty much organized around my calendar. So I have these appointments with people, and then outside of the appointments, I have time to do other things. So every day it's up to me to decide, what are my priorities for the day. So when you were talking about, when I time block, when I put my stuff into a kind of sequence or order, then I feel like my stress management is also being taken care of. I thought of a couple of things. One is, in order to feel less stress, we have to make sure that our expectations of ourselves are reasonable, right? So when you block off time and you have an hour on Monday for whatever tasks you have to accomplish that day, do you set yourself up with 20 things to do? Because you're always going to feel like you didn't accomplish anything when you set yourself up with 20 items and only manage one. On the other hand, if you say in an hour, what can I successfully complete and actually feel good about? What are the top 2 things I have to do in that hour? Then you're going to actually walk away feeling like, whoo, that was great. I did great. And now Tuesday, I can take whatever time I have to do whatever needs to be done.
Absolutely. I agree. So your doctorate, how would you say it? Doctoral professor?
Yes, I'm a doctor of psychology. That's
okay. But when you were going to pursue your PhD and your professor, would you refer to that professor as a doctoral professor? Is that how I would refer to that person?
No, you usually people refer to someone as professor when they are teaching in higher education, or doctor when they're just referring to them based on their degree or credential. So you can just say doctor, and that covers both the fact that I'm a professor and I have a doctoral degree. Doctoral degree or doctoral candidate, right? That's what people say. Yeah. But you don't have to do any of those. You can just call me Vagdevi, or as people do, Dr. V, simple.
Awesome. Well, I was going back to your professor when you were in school to obtain your doctorate's degree. Mm-hmm. And I loved what she said about the 2 books and basically figure it out. Because in our business and businesses and in life, we want to attract and bring on self-managed, self-disciplined people. And as I teach my daughter, who's almost 11, I want to teach her to be self-managed, self-disciplined. So she's not looking for any external for motivation. And I have interviewed people in sales, and they would say, what are you going to do to motivate me?
And you'd say?
The first time that someone asked, I was dumbfounded. I didn't have an answer. And I thought, I'm going to have to research that. And then I thought, no, that's not up to me to motivate you. It's up to you to motivate yourself. And through time management and stress management and self-improvement, I want to work every day on being a better version of myself. And I don't judge my success on, did I follow my schedule 100%? Or I look at it as, did I accomplish what I set out to accomplish? And if I didn't, what do I need to adjust? My expectation activities, do I need to outsource some and delegate more? The answer is always yes. Because I always want I do have probably unrealistic expectations of myself on what I could do. But that's how I know my limits. So I keep pushing them.
That's right. That's right. You're when you mentioned what this candidate said to you, I was thinking that is what in psychology we would call intrinsic versus extrinsic motivation, right? Extrinsic motivation is something or somebody outside of myself is making me do this thing, right? So the something might be, I'm going to get pulled over and get a ticket because my car registration's expired and I'm still driving it. And so then I'm motivated by that consequence. I don't have money to pay, the fine that I would have to pay, or I might get in big trouble and not be able to drive my car. So, oh goodness, let me go get my registration done, right? That's an extrinsic motivator. Typically, children are going to function on extrinsic motivation because early in our development, we don't actually care whether we brush our teeth or go to bed, or put on jammies before we go to bed, or take a bath before we go to bed. So our parents are training us. They're telling us this is what hygiene is. This is when you eat, and this is what's good to eat. But eventually you want to teach them how to translate that into their own inner intrinsic motivation. You begin to teach a child that, if you eat healthy at these times of the day, then you're going to naturally begin to feel hungry when it's lunchtime and dinner time. Your body is going to adapt to that rhythm. So then the child begins to, at some point, right, age 9, 10, 11 is usually when you see children begin to incorporate that. They actually begin to come to mom or dad and say, hey, it's bedtime. Are you going to come read to me? It's my bedtime. Or you say something like, this movie isn't over yet. And they say, great, maybe I won't take a bath tonight. I'm going to skip a bath. Is that okay? But they begin to make these choices. They begin to, so let's say she says, I'm not going to take a bath tonight. Then the next day before you go out somewhere, she might say, I didn't take a bath. Let me take a bath right now. Let me take a shower right now. But she begins to incorporate this into herself, right? And what we expect is that by the time you arrive in adulthood, that pretty much most of your life is driven by intrinsic motivation, that only a small part of it is driven by extrinsic motivation. And extrinsic motivation should be something that gently pulls you. So I love you, I care about you, I know this will make you happy, so I'm going to mow the lawn today, right? Because I know that you love the smell of fresh cut grass, and you love the sight of a manicured lawn. And as your partner, I'm going to do that because it's going to make me feel like I accomplished something, and it's going to make you happy. That might be an extrinsic motivation that actually means something, makes a lot of sense as an adult. But when you're coming in for a job interview, right? And somebody says, what motivates you? And they say, well, you're going to motivate me. They're telling you something about what is the engine that runs their life.
Right. Yeah. And speaking of validation, so and you need to be internally motivated at some level to be in sales. You have to make your phone calls, even when you get 100 no's. You're looking for the next yes. You have to make the phone calls so you can find the people to serve them, and then you have to serve a certain number of people to hit your goal. So then eventually you put that converts into money, and then you can pay your bills and your dreams and all the others. So yeah, so it's a string of process. But obviously being around like-minded people that are high energy, that are focused on the same outcome, I could see how that would be motivating. But I do believe that the motivation should come from within. But that stumped me for a day or two. I had to think about that. Like, it's 10 years ago, so I was younger then too. So I thought, have I missed something? Am I missing something? Because I wanted to be open-minded about it. So we did discuss the grid. Do you want to share that on how to decide?
Yeah.
I love this.
This whiteboard is still available. There it is. Right. So we were talking about, what is it? This is about time management. And this is actually not my grid. I want to give credit where credit is due. This is from the book, First Things First. And I apologize, I don't remember the author's name. I probably should have looked it up before we started this, but it's somebody that worked a lot with Stephen Covey. And Stephen Covey was a big fan of values clarification, that time management and stress management feel better when you are spending your time on the things that matter to you. And that way, even if you don't accomplish everything on your plate, if you accomplish the one or two things that are important to you, you're going to feel better about yourself. And so this is a simple way to think about that. This is called a Johari's window. You draw a grid like this, and on the left-hand side is important, not important. On the top is urgent, not urgent. So then each box, so this box right here, would be all the things in your life that are urgent and important, right? if your air conditioning's on the fritz and it's about to go out and you live in Texas, okay, that's going to be important and urgent,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
right? Um, Things that are urgent and not important are sometimes things that are just, you need to do for life. So something that's urgent but not important might be you've got to enroll your kid in summer camp, right? You know that if you don't do that, that you're not going to find a spot in summer camp. It may not be in terms of what the meaning of life is for you the most important thing, but it might be urgent. Urgent and not important is also the box where other people's important things, urgent things get put in there, right? So this is something that many of us are actually driven by, a sense of urgency that makes us then prioritize it. Instead of thinking, is this important to me? I begin to respond to things that are just urgent. And this author in First Things First talks about it as the urgency addiction. The urgency addiction can come from the fact that I have neglected something. So I didn't do my car registration. I didn't get my car inspected. I am now 30 days past it and I know I'm past the grace period. Now I know I'm going to get a ticket. All of a sudden that's become urgent. And then I have to go and wait in line and it takes a bunch of time. It doesn't feel important, but it's become urgent. Another sort of urgency that comes from the outside is other people saying, have you gotten that report to me? When are you going to send that email? When are you going to set this thing up? And if you don't prioritize and time block that on your schedule and say either once a week or twice a week, I'm going to set aside this time to respond to other people's urgency, then what happens is they can derail you at any time. So I'm in the middle of something that's really important. I'm writing this book that I've been wanting to write. And basically, I don't get past a page of it because 25 emails show up, 4 texts show up. I think having digital devices has also made it much more likely that we get caught in that urgency addiction. Important, not urgent, is some of the most important dreams that we have for our life, things that are long term. I want to get healthy and fit, right? I want to really figure out how to change my career. I don't want to keep doing this for the next 20 years. I want to, what's on my bucket list? I want to travel. I want to, go to the ocean once a year. If I'm spending too much time on the left-hand side here, this important, not urgent, where all my long-term dreams and goals are, often don't get any bandwidth at all, right? Or any airtime at all.
Go there
Over
to die.
here, things that are not urgent and not important is where we're surfing the web and we're doing Pinterest and Instagram and Facebook. And these are things that don't add value to our lives, right? They become time sucks, right? And they don't necessarily lead us to something. It's not a bad thing to be doing this, but if I'm playing video games and it helps me calm down and manage my stress, and then all of a sudden I'm doing video games 8 hours a day, now all of a sudden these other boxes are completely neglected. It turns out that we tend to do a lot of things in this not urgent, not important box if we feel constantly like we're not managing the urgency. So stress management, like you said, Mindy, is very closely tied to time management, right? If I feel like I'm working efficiently in the important boxes, right? And I'm managing and containing the not important box over here, then I'm not going to be motivated or driven to spend a lot of time on things that are basically eye candy or time pass, something that just makes me numb out and distract myself, right? So this is where all the distractions live. So just to summarize, we want to spend most of our time up here in the important boxes and take care of the urgent and important, especially when it's life-threatening or something that's going to make you lose your home, your car, your job, then that's important to take care of. Make sure you're making time for the things that are important and not urgent. These are your long-term goals. And then make sure you're managing and containing the things that are urgent but not important. Like you're giving it time, but you're not letting it take over your life.
Absolutely. We were sharing some delegation techniques and tips before the call today. What do you like to delegate to others that frees up your time?
Well, my philosophy around delegation is that I should delegate anything I don't enjoy doing, right? Taxes, bookkeeping, math, things that are boring, things that I don't enjoy. That's the first thing I delegate so that I'm hiring and employing somebody else who enjoys doing this stuff. They're going to do it more efficiently and faster, because if I have to do it, I'm going to procrastinate. And it frees me up to do the things that make me feel like bring value to my life. Yeah. Awesome. The other kind of delegation that I do is anything that I feel like if I make a certain amount per hour, and I usually, based on my value in the company, I figure out what income do I bring? How does that break down into an hourly rate? And then that's my hourly rate, right? And based on that hourly rate, I figure out what are the tasks that somebody at that hourly rate should be engaged in. So I don't, I say to my associates, we don't want somebody that's a high wage earner to be doing filing and photocopying and running errands. Then if we see in the company that a lot of those tasks are falling on someone that really we need bringing in more income, that means we should be hiring somebody. Again, we are employing someone, giving someone else gainful employment, teaching someone valuable skills, and it's freeing us up to do the things that we need to be doing.
And what I've found is when you have a specific person that's in their zone of genius or their lane of where their excellence is, that everything is more efficient and everyone is happier. And I know when I delegate out jobs that it's going to be done better than I would do it, because of the person that I'm hiring is going to be more excited about getting it done and being excited to show me it was done. I love that part too. It's awesome.
So we were talking before this call about some ideas for delegation, right? Delegation is a really important strategy in time management. And I imagine that anybody who hears that word delegation is thinking, well, I'm not rich. I can't afford an assistant. I can't afford to hire a secretary. That's just for the rich people. And I'm curious, Mindy, do you have some ideas for really affordable ways to delegate?
I do. So I think it's a simple calculation to figure out how much money you earn. And you look at how much money you earn and can you pay someone less than what you're earning to help free up your time so you can earn more and have a better balance. So when I learned delegation, I love it now. I'm going to go through all of the things that I do delegate. So I delegate the taxes. I delegate bookkeeping. I delegate organizational office type. I have Margot who keeps me organized and helps me with my to-dos. And I ask her, please follow up with me. I want you to follow up with me. I need you to follow up with me on anything that might be falling through the cracks. I have a marketing person that I delegate to. We have a driver that I delegate to. He runs errands for us at the business and personally from time to time. So yesterday he handled the car registration and inspection as well for my car and the company car. Dropped off a couple returns and dropped off a modem at the internet company. So that took about an hour and a half, and it brings him a lot of joy, and it brings me a lot of joy to see him and be able to give him the opportunity to get out of the house and, you know, do all these errands. He feels great about it, and it helps me tremendously. I have a housekeeper that I pay to come clean the house every single week. I know I have some neighbors that have it daily. Our house isn't that big, and I don't need that at this time. In the past, we've considered hiring a chef when we worked a lot to prepare the meals. But we were weighing the balance between how much money were we spending at restaurants because we were working so much versus eating healthier and having someone come prepare. We never did pull the trigger on that. You know, we delegate to other companies, obviously, you know, like the life insurance and all that. If I don't, and lawyer, right? So we have all access to all these experts. I am a big believer in letting the experts at each field do what they are trained to do, because I think in the end, it's like my husband Jay learned this a while back, and we kind of laugh about. We outsource home repairs, maintenance, things like that, because we calculated and figured out pretty early on that if he repairs something and it doesn't go as planned, then, you know, he could suffer an injury, and then it's more expensive, and then we have to eventually hire someone to come fix it. So unless he's absolutely sure that he's competent to take on, you know, like he can replace the bike tire, he's very capable. But then we also have to weigh his earnings and his time versus paying someone else to do it. So we have many things that we outsource, and they're not all expensive. Like they're not all on the payroll full time. The people I delegate to, in general, are on um, a weekly as needed basis. So Margot is on a set time, but she's, you know, very flexible to scale up or scale down. And then Tom has flexibility as well. And then the bookkeeper works for other clients as well. So we just get a small amount of time. So I really like to diversify, because if one of my people that I delegate to is on vacation and they're helping someone else, whatever, I still have options to delegate. Oh, and then I started delegating to my daughter. That was awesome. So she started taking over a small piece of the marketing task for me. She's a gifted writer, literally. So she does some copy for me. And whatever I can do to delegate, I feel at this point in my career, it's almost like sharing as a gift, where we can collaborate and I can share what I know and they can share with me what they know, and it helps everyone grow. So I don't know if I answered your question about affordable, but I think if you're flexible and well, let me circle back. So affordable, I would say if you need a driver or a runner type that's going to run some errands for you, maybe consider hiring someone that's, you know, retired, or that's a student, or that just needs the income as a side instead of someone that needs full-time income. I guess that's where I've supplemented a lot, where I reach out and see if people have capacity. And if they don't, then they simply don't. I reached out to someone that I trust that I needed to file a new company for me. And I said, hey, would you be willing to do a trade out? And she thought about it for a few hours, and she said, I would love to, but I'm absolutely swamped and I won't be able to do it justice. So I appreciated her honesty. So I think you have to be creative and flexible. And when you're creative and flexible, then I think you can consider trade out if you don't have money. Do you do trade outs?
So that's a great point, right? I think first I want to start with, when you said you hired a driver, my immediate thought is, oh, she has a chauffeur. That's not what you meant. And having a driver isn't something that only rich people get to do, right? You found somebody that's retired that wants a little bit of extra money, right?
Right.
And this is a wonderful way for this person to get out of their home, to be in communication with the two of you. I've met him. He's just a delightful older gentleman who's just such a good influence on all of y'all, because he's very calming, soothing. He's also very reassuring. He's like a grandpa. So you hired this person who works for a few hours a week and just gets these simple errands and tasks done for you. Yeah. And it serves him because then he has a little pocket money. It serves you because now you have somebody that's a gentle soul who's just very reassuring, who says, don't worry about it. You give him a list of things and you can trust him to get it done, right? You
Absolutely.
can trust that he'll be meticulous and thoughtful about it. Same thing with Margot. She's somebody that actually is from like Upwork or Fiverr or something like that. These are wonderful websites where you can go find people in other countries for whom the economy or the economic scale is very different. So you don't need to necessarily pay this person $25 to $30 an hour, which is what you might have to do if you hired somebody in this country, but you can pay this person somewhere between $5 to $10 an hour and think about things that they could do for you, right? Think about all these digital tasks that we do every day, like returning emails, organizing emails, making sure that some of the emails that reflect a task that needs to be get done gets on your task list with a deadline and with a reminder. Appointments. If somebody, needs an appointment with you, can you hire someone that just makes sure that those appointments get on your calendar, that this person is notified, and that if that person then calls and changes their appointment. And I have somebody hired that I pay less than $15 an hour, who's also retired and doesn't want to work a full-time job anymore, is not interested, but she used to work at a university and she has a lot of experience in dealing with organization and dealing with event management. And so I do a lot of trainings and workshops and things like that. And so what she does is she just makes sure that everybody who signs up for a workshop gets a friendly email, calls them up, makes sure that they know exactly what's happening, when it's happening, what they need to do. And it just makes my organization look better. Now, if I was putting all that on myself, guess what I'd be doing? I'd be sitting up at 9, 10 o'clock at night, trying to send these emails out. I may not have the ability to respond to people during the day because I'm going back to back with appointments. That means they're feeling like they sent me an email, they didn't hear from me for a day or two. Now, all of a sudden, I have my own Margot. Her name is Marvella. And Marvella does marvelous work for me, right? And I love her because she also has such a wonderful, gentle attitude. And that's what people see. They see that as the face of my company now. And that's such an important thing to think about as a business owner, because I think when I first started out in business, I thought it was not worth my time and energy to hire somebody. I used to think, oh God, I don't want to manage people. I'm just going to do it all myself. And I used to stay up till 1 and 2 in the morning trying to take care of things, which was not good for my health, nor was it good for my business, because the next day I was not in a great mood. And then I have to be in a good place in my spirit and in my emotions to be a good coach and healer. And so for me to show up the next day with bleary eyes and not having slept enough just was not a good idea, right? Now I get to go to bed at the time that I want to go to bed to. I get to sleep in because I have somebody that's got my back.
That's beautiful. So when you were talking about how you used to do it on your own, it reminded me of the Maya Angelou quote, when we know better, we do better. Yeah. And I like that Margot is in a different part of the world because she's actually a day ahead of me. So things are getting done when I'm sleeping, and she does it with such a great attitude. And if you look at the opportunity to work for like a company at Upwork and work with me versus the commute time, from what I understand from other people I've hired from the same country, is that their commute time is 2-3+ hours. The rate that they get paid locally is drastically less than anything that we're familiar with in the US. And so it's a better quality of life for them. They don't have the commute time. They make more money. They get to spend time with their family. They get to, pick and choose what they like to do. And yeah, I think it's a great opportunity. And American companies have been outsourcing for years. So it's a great, the big corporations have anyways.
Right. Right. And what we're talking about is small business owners, entrepreneurs, solo entrepreneurs, bootstrap entrepreneurs who may think, oh, only those big companies, only these rich people can do some of these things. And we're saying it is such a valuable thing for you to consider for your time and stress management to have a team. You know, my husband sometimes teases me and says, I have a posse. You know what? Beyonce and J Lo aren't the only ones that need a posse. We all do. We
I
all
agree.
need a team of people behind us that help us succeed, right? And particularly if you're a woman, you may not be socialized to think like that.
Now,
Sorry, go ahead.
you brought up the glam J Lo and Beyonce. Of course, I outsourced my hair. Well, not of course. I have a friend that her mom dyes her hair and she gets her hair cut for time management. But obviously, I will for photography for my headshots. I outsource that to a very talented photographer. You've met him. And then I outsource the hair and the makeup because I can do it way better. And that's only per event. Now, I don't want to insinuate that because I did not do a trade out with any of those people. But if you're in a startup and money is tight, you can get creative and figure out what you can do to add value, the services you provide. Can you trade that out and make it and make sure that you make it fair? A lot of times when you do offer to trade out, it's funny how someone will sometimes they'll value your trade much lower and they'll value theirs higher. So if you can't come to something that feels right, then obviously that wouldn't be the right plan for you. But it's something to consider, or maybe even a hybrid. Or maybe you find someone that will take you on as time permits. Like I have a video editor. I have 30 hours of footage that needs to be edited. And it's been over a year since I have this footage, and you're aware you're in some of the footage. And I haven't been able to come to terms with paying to edit the footage because it's in the important, not urgent category. So it's not like it's going to just disappear. But I haven't found the appropriate way to trade or to pay for it. So it's just kind of in the hold. So sometimes it's necessary too to hold off on the urgent, not important until you can figure out how to pay for it with your urgent and important tasks.
So
Right?
I think, on that note, I actually loved Maya Angelou's quote, what is it? The more you know, or
The
you do
when
better
you
when you know better.
Oprah quotes that a lot. She says, "When you know better, you do better."
Yeah. So the way to know, I think what we're both encouraging is give it a try. Start small, start outsourcing, delegating. And your children, my children have always worked for my companies
Yeah.
because I've said to my kids, you don't get something for nothing after a certain age. Up to a certain age, it makes sense that every need you have is my obligation to provide to you. So I'm not going to make you do something for it other than be a good student, go to school, take care of yourself, maybe do some of the chores around the house that belong to you or that I delegate to you. But at some point, we need to up that a little bit. We need to up the ante and say, if you want money, especially after my children turned 16, I said, you are now legally eligible to start working. So if you want money for things in life, I want you to take on a role, right? Even if it's a very small role. And both of my children didn't take out student loans in college because they worked for me and they got paid like any other employee for the work that they did. And they were able to use that money to pay for their college, right? And um, it was so much easier for them to work for me than to work for some other employer because they got to work from home. They had a flexible schedule, and I was going to be generous with the amount that I was going to pay. And they didn't have to deal with, having bosses they don't know. There are some disadvantages, of course, because if you work for your parents, then they know how you're working, what you're doing. They know when you're procrastinating. They know when you're phoning it in. So it's good news, bad news, but I think that's the message of our video today, is start small, but start delegating. Start taking things off your list that other people can do for you so that you can really focus on what's important, both urgent and not urgent, for you in your life as the leader of a company, as the leader of a family, trying to figure out how to get all your things done in a way that makes you feel good. And I think that's a good note for us to end on today. So thank you again, Mindy. This has been a very delightful conversation to have with you.
Thank you.
And
I
we
enjoyed it.
will, yeah, we will see you all again on this channel very soon. Take care.
Thank you. Bye.